puppet. He's pulling the strings, has been nominated by Joe Biden for the United States Supreme Court. The hearings are coming up next week. Her name is Ketanji Brown Jackson. I think that's what it is, guys.
Pretty close.
She is related to, believe it or not, Paul Ryan, the hated Paul Ryan, the swamp monster Paul Ryan. She is funded by George Soros. She supports critical race theory. She wants to pack the Supreme Court with 50, 60, 70 left-wing justices instead of the 9 that we currently have. And we break it down for y'all right here today. We're going to ask you to take action. We're going to ask y'all to get involved in the fight. And we're going to give you all the information you need about Ketanji Brown Jackson, George Soros, the left-wing organizations who are supporting her. And look, we're going to tell you who the weak Republicans are on the Senate Judiciary Committee. So hearings are coming up on Monday, guys. One of y'all pick up from here. Let's talk about the Senate Judiciary. I guess, first of all, what we should talk about is the George Soros funding. That's the topic of the show. The Demand Justice Organization. Guys, if any of you guys have the details on this, let everybody know who's watching where the money is coming from and just what we're working with here. So, Chris, Ben, Aaron, which one of you guys wants to jump up to the plate here and talk about this Demand Justice group?
Well, we know that they've got millions of dollars coming in from George Soros. We have millions of dollars that they received directly from Soros for the express purpose of pressuring Stephen Breyer to retire. I mean, they all but put a gun to the man's head, after November of last year and said, you're going to retire one way or the other. And They began within hours of the Georgia special election in January of last year. They were pushing for Stephen Breyer to retire because they know for them, the Supreme Court, it's everything. It's everything. And they had millions of dollars given to them by George Soros through Demand Justice to then run digital ads trumpeting Ketanji Brown's nomination for the Supreme Court. All they had to wait for was Stephen Breyer to get the hint and retire. And for a lot of people, I think, get the idea that replacing one, Democrat nominee for the next is kind of a wash on the court. But with Stephen Breyer, you had an old, tired tyrant. With Ketanji Brown, you've got a young judicial activist who doesn't even try to pretend that she's objective or neutral or that she actually supports the Constitution. She's a radical left-wing activist who wants to spend the rest of her life bringing a sledgehammer down on our freedoms, especially our gun rights. It's just the way it is.
Well, and everybody knows, if somebody like Ketanji Brown gets on there, she immediately has to start doing what she was sent there to do, right?
Yeah.
All these agreements, George Soros, Joe Biden, these people all have things lined up way in advance. Look, if you get in there, I need you to start talking about these things. We need to start pushing this agenda. It's like, I think what you said, Aaron, about the other guy being old, slow, tired, just not really into it anymore. All of that changes every time you put a new person on the Supreme Court. They start doing the bidding of the people who sent them there.
Yeah, guys, I see a lot of y'all jumping on right now. Let us know where you're watching from. Should have introduced ourselves at the beginning. Most of y'all know us. I'm Patrick Parsons, Executive Vice President at AFA. I'm here in Kennesaw, Georgia. We've got Aaron Dorr, Chris Dorr, Ben Dorr, all with AFA and a number of state groups. Chris, I guess, where are you today, Chris? Usually you're in the state capital. You're in Pennsylvania today. Yep. Ben, you're up in Minnesota. And Aaron is always on the road as well, guys. But let us know where you're watching from. Aaron, you mentioned the George Soros money. And it's not just Soros. It's Bloomberg. It's I forget the guy's name in there's multiple people in California, right? But there is this organization. So let's dig into George Soros here. So there's an organization called Demand Justice. While we're going about our daily lives, there's these groups in Washington, D.C. who literally just collect money, and then they buy TV ads, they buy radio ads, they buy social media ads, they fund all of these other groups. It's called dark money. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. We don't think there should be really any laws against this, guys. But Soros, we know through the Open Society Foundation, gave $2.6 million to demand justice. And then there's another organization called the 1630 Fund, not 1619, which Ketanji supports. The 1619 is 1630. It's another group. I don't even know what the heck it means. Probably look into it.
Well, like right here on the face of it, says you go on their website, empowering progressive change makers. The 1630 Fund believes in the power of new ideas, creative partnerships, and emerging leaders to achieve meaningful and lasting solutions to the most pressing challenges of our time.
Yeah, and so this group that there's a piece that I was reading earlier, $1.3 billion in the last few years. 1.3 billion, not million. So we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And they had three big donors. One was 51 million, one was 26 million, I think one was like $17 million.
10 million,
10. You can bet your butt that George Soros was one of those donors.
Absolutely.
Now, yeah, I mean, again, we believe in speech in this country. Obviously, these guys are communists. We don't want the government, but you don't know who these donors are. And they're pushing communism, and they're funding this group called Demand Justice, who Aaron started the show with, pressured Stephen Breyer, who's currently a Supreme Court justice and who's retiring. They said, you better get the hell out of the Supreme Court and get out of here so that they can put in this young communist. I don't even like progressive. I like communist, left-wing justice who Second Amendment, abortion on demand. She wants critical race theory. But what else? I mean, every issue you can possibly imagine, she's going to be a hardcore communist on. And that brings us to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Okay, Aaron, it's 11-11, right?
That's right. I want to mention one thing.
Bad guys here.
I want to mention one thing on the money side a minute first. You mentioned $85 million from three donors to the 1630 Fund, which is pushing for Ketanji on the Supreme Court. I just want to draw some comparisons. When Wyoming gun owners, one of our affiliates at the state level, when they raise $100,000 a year, they have liberals trying to force us to surrender all of our donors. When AFA raises money, far less than 85 million, we have national gun grabbers trying to demand that we reveal our donors. But you have, in this case, 85 million bucks from three donors, and it's totally behind the wall of their secrecy. Again, we all agree in free speech, but the hypocrisy here has got to be called out, because when gun rights organizations raise cash, they demand to know who's giving you money, what's their address, where do they work. We want to harass their employers. But when they raise this kind of cash, they can do it all in secret and no one gives a damn. So, but getting back to your question about the Judiciary Committee, I think Chris had a screenshot there of the members. I think it's really important for folks to remember this is an 11-11 committee. It is a tie 11-11 committee. The only way Ketanji moves forward is if the Republicans collapse again under the pressure and they vote to approve her nomination. Chuck Schumer does have procedural ways he can move her through the committee if they stall, as they did with David Chipman last year. But if he does that, all it does is unite the rest of the Republicans into opposing her nomination. So the real question, again, as always in D.C. these days, is will the Republicans have a pair, stand up, hold the line, and oppose this radical judicial activist nomination? That's the question of the hour.
I'm just looking through the list of the Republicans on this committee here. Of course, the ranking member is Iowa's own Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Grahamnesty. Lindsey Grahamnesty, I think that's probably the weakest point, one of the weakest points, I guess I should say. Ben Sass. On this committee. Lindsey Graham in particular, he's got this history of believing that, that presidents are entitled to their picks. And to be technically correct, that's true. They get to pick who they want to replace vacancies on the Supreme Court, but they damn well don't get to say who gets approved by the Senate. That is the Senate's responsibility. So just look at this list. I think there's some focus points here that we're encouraging everybody to be hammering on. Obviously, we have links in all the pages that you're watching this on right now for you guys to send emails to your U.S. senators telling them hell no on this. But in particular, I think we're going to have to start drawing attention to people like Lindsey Graham.
The guy got $250,000. Don't forget, Chris, When you and I confronted him in Des Moines,
Yes.
Iowa, when he came out as a nominee for the GOP nomination years ago,
At the Sheraton.
one of the things we hit him on in front of the international media was, why did you take $250,000 from Michael Bloomberg?
Bloomberg.
He didn't pause. He's like, I'd take money from the devil himself. He doesn't give a shit, he said, about where the money came from. If it came from Bloomberg and if it came with strings, he just didn't care. So Lindsey Graham certainly needs to hear from gun owners.
Well, he bragged.
In a major way.
He bragged hardcore during the Kavanaugh hearings about how he voted for Sotomayor and Kagan, and he was proud of the fact that he voted in favor of all of these other leftists who are on the court. So no doubt he's going to be one of the leading rhinos up there, screaming in support of this trash ball.
We're going to wait and see. He had his meeting with her yesterday. Graham met with Ketanji yesterday. The meeting reportedly did not go very well. It ended very abruptly. No one's really saying what happened yet, but this is why the pressure from gun owners is so important right now, because the dynamics are shifting in Washington, D.C. And so Lindsey Graham has always been a bad vote when it comes to Supreme Court nominees. Frankly, so has Lindsey Graham for the folks watching in Iowa. The guy was a yes vote on Sotomayor.
Chuck Grassley.
I'd say Schumer.
You said Lindsey again. You double up on Lindsey, which is not a bad tactic, by the way.
Yeah. Chuck Grassley, a yes vote on both of them. But these dynamics are shifting right now. The midterms are 6 months away. Everybody on the Republican side knows right now that their best chance is to draw a harsh line of contrast between themselves and the radical left. And so we're going to have to wait and see. We have some guys on this committee and some gals who are pretty strong. We've seen great things, frankly, from John Kennedy in Louisiana. He's done a pretty dang good job at opposing these nominees in the past. We'll have to wait and see. Josh Hawley has been decent in the past. We're going to have to wait and see, but you're right. Ben Sass, you got Chuck Grassley, John Cornyn, Lindsey Graham. They have never been stalwarts in these processes before.
Yeah, as we break these guys down, and I want to talk about the Democrats and the Republicans, Aaron. But as y'all know, our organization, if you're on our email list right now, we are firing away already on the Supreme Court nomination. And we have been. It's coming up on Monday through next week. Okay, so you got to take action now. You need to be in the fight now. And so many of y'all have come on board in the last number of months at joinafa.org. Become a member today of the American Firearms Association at joinafa.org. Get on board today. $35 a year, less than 10 cents a day, guys. Head on over there and jump on board. As we talk about these members on the Senate Judiciary Committee, again, the Democrats bought and paid for by Soros. The Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is paid for by Soros for sure. But it's the Republicans. Talked about Grassley, for those of y'all in Iowa, always a problem. Lindsey Graham, always a problem. John Cornyn of Texas, last week he voted for VAWA, voted for the VAWA inside of the omnibus. You've got Tom Tillis from North Carolina. I actually think he voted right on that bill. I don't know why. Probably some other issue. Ben Sass from Nebraska sucks. Obviously, the good ones typically on this committee are Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, Marsha Blackburn, maybe Marsha Blackburn. I don't know. So there's got to be heat there, guys. And you got to keep up the fight. Quite frankly, I haven't heard anybody else talking about this. And that's a shame, because if the left never rolls over and plays dead when it comes to the Supreme Court. We need to fire up and we need to fight. And it's us versus Soros, so head on over to joinafa.org, guys, and get involved in the battle.
I think everybody knows this. The left only gets as far as they get because, they have way less people than we do. The grassroots doesn't support their agenda. But again, when you have donors tossing literal tens and tens of millions of dollars into these billions to push these issues, right? I live in Minnesota. We're always seeing people like Michael Bloomberg will dump millions of dollars into the Minnesota state level elections just to try to push the state further to the left. But what we have always had, and what often wins the day, is just the sheer amount of American bodies, people, patriots who are like, not putting up with this crap, who are sending emails, they're making phone calls, they're making small dollar donations to causes that they believe in. And it's often enough to turn the tide. That's frankly, it's how we've stopped Joe Biden so far from passing gun control since he became, since he got into the White House. Let's just say it that way. That's the simple reason. So yeah, make a contribution if you can. Get on board with the American Firearms Association. But again, send your emails, sign your petitions. All of those things goes a heck of a long ways to overcome the millions of dollars that the left pours into these fights.
People are asking.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm thinking back to just real quick. I'm thinking back to the past nomination fights. What did we have? We had
Chipman.
during the Biden era for sure. But what was the last Supreme Court? It was
Amy
Barrett,
Kavanaugh, and
Kavanaugh.
Gorsuch.
Right, and Gorsuch. Yeah, I mean, underwhelming, obviously not communists, but not superheroes for sure. But thinking back to those nomination hearings, packed rooms with radical leftists screaming and yelling and making accusations and everything else. Well, I think the Senate buildings are probably closed. I don't think that anybody can go to these hearings. We'll probably be able to watch them on TV. And this is all by design. And they're keeping this very low key. We have the war overseas and everything else. They want to just ram this gal through. But how old is she? 45? I mean, she's going to be with us probably for the rest of our lives. I mean, and this is all by design. So nobody is really making a lot of noise here, guys. We need to make noise and get fired up and get loud because they're going to slow roll.
We have stopped these nominees. I mean, just yesterday, the Federal Reserve Vice Chair nominee, Sarah Raskin, had to withdraw her nomination. She could not get past the Senate Banking Committee. Obviously, we had David Chipman last year, could not survive as the ATF nominee. You had, I can't pronounce her name, Neera Tanden, who had to drop out as the director of Office of Management and Budget. I mean, this guy his handlers, Joe Biden's, keep pushing beyond where they should go, trying to pick these starry-eyed nut jobs on these positions, and Americans keep standing up and saying, we're not going to support this, and we're going to come after you in November if you approve these radical nominees. So for those who are asking right now, for example, in Georgia, why should I bother? Because Warnock and Ossoff. I'm telling you, Warnock and Ossoff and Chuck Schumer and the entire Democratic conference right now is scared out of their minds. They don't care about any one race. They care about keeping power. And right now, with a 50-50 chamber, with Democrat poll numbers absolutely in the garbage, on fire right now, the last thing they want to have is one more nasty, public, loud fight over a starry-eyed radical for the Supreme Court. And that's exactly what she is, because this woman is new. She's new on the court, on the federal bench, relatively speaking. But in her previous Senate confirmation hearings for the federal bench, Ketanji continues to refuse to acknowledge that we have an individual right to keep and bear arms. She believes the Second Amendment guarantees a collective right, aka the government has a right to keep and bear arms. But you and I, as citizens, we have no rights at all. Of course, our stance is very simple. We have a God-given, constitutionally guaranteed, and Supreme Court acknowledged right to keep and bear arms via the Heller decision. So this is a concern for the Democratic Party right now. They don't want one additional fight in the months prior to the midterms. Take action now.
I'm gonna do something right now that I don't normally do, and that is I'm gonna throw up Mitch McConnell's website up onto the bottom right corner of your screen, everybody, so you guys can see this. Oh, it's freezing up. It's not actually working. Oh, I think that's a sign from God telling me not to do it. But I think we're about this close to getting the entire Republican conference to lock up in opposition to this. Because if you go and read on Mitch McConnell's website right now, it's just all he goes through in details all the dark money, all the Soros funded money that's coming in on this person. He's basically planting the flag and saying, hey, look, everybody, look, this lady is nasty. And like Aaron detailed before, they've been calling for her to get onto the court since before Biden was actually even into office and before they even had control of Ossoff's seat.
Really? I didn't know that.
And had a pathway forward. Yeah, they had those billboard signs, trucks that were going around the Supreme Court and driving around D.C. Calling for this lady well in advance of them actually having power. So this has been by design, by Soros, by the left. for quite some time. And I think that people like the turtle, Mitch McConnell, they understand that if they deliver and roll over right now on something as big as this, that could severely impact their chances of making a clean sweep in the 2022 general elections that everybody's about to run into right now. So I think we can do this. I think they need to be pushed big time by the gun rights community, like we did on Chipman, and say, hell no, there's no compromising anymore.
Yeah, they already made the big dumb mistake. The Republicans already made the big dumb mistake of getting on board with VAWA and passing gun control. They've already given Biden a big fat win by letting stuff like that pass and by supporting that stuff. So if the GOP wants to guarantee that Biden's goons stay in charge, well, the thing they can do here is support the Supreme Court nomination. That's a good way to get everybody into November feeling that, hey, well, Joe Biden ain't too bad. Democrats aren't. Hey, there's no more mandates. There's no more, nobody's forcing jabs on anybody anymore. We got a great Supreme Court nomination, VAWA. We got all this stuff. And next thing you know, Democrats stay in power. So here's a good opportunity for the Republicans not to be stupid, to fight this stuff and point out the fact that Jumanji it would be a really, really bad pick for America.
And they seem to know it. Don't forget, guys, don't again, if you're in a Democrat state, Republican state, it doesn't matter. Fire off your emails, because the Republicans, we had the same thing with red flags. When we had Trump in the White House, we had Republicans in the Senate who were very close to passing red flags. Biden gets in there, and all of a sudden they lock up in opposition to red flags because, by God, we're not going to do it under a Biden administration. Same thing here right now. Lindsey Graham, he was a loud champion of Ketanji when she had her nomination hearings for the federal bench. Loud champion. But now, yesterday, his meeting with Ketanji, supposed to last an hour and a half, it lasted 15 minutes. And now he's out there. Oh, yeah, it's all the news right now. And all of a sudden, he's out there questioning her credentials for the court. Now, does that make Lindsey Graham a political prostitute? Yeah, it does. But we're okay with that. That's the point. Yeah. It's a midterm election dynamic. The Republicans, whether they believe it or don't, they want to do the right thing according to the base to get the best chance they have of taking control of the Senate. So, again, now's the time to hammer on them. The GOP is trying to be tough. The Democrats are concerned about this. They don't want this kind of a fight right now. So as you've been hearing, send your email to your senators and tell them to do the job you told them to do.
Yeah, one thing, guys, as well, we're growing out our YouTube page. We got some folks over there watching right now live. Go and subscribe on our YouTube page. It is American Firearms Association over on YouTube, guys. Let's build that up. You get alerts if Facebook is shadow banning you or not giving you alerts. You get alerts over there. You can subscribe, guys. And when you're done with that, head on over to joinafa.org, www.joinafa.org. Get involved in the fight. We'll also send out this show on our email list as well. So when you become a member, you automatically get on our email list, sign a petition, get involved in the fight, guys. And again, you're not hearing from a lot of people on this, unfortunately. But Aaron just made the case, Chris and Ben. It's like Lindsey Graham meeting 15 minutes. Okay. You got these people, Cocaine Mitch, you can go on his website. Yeah, we don't like Cocaine Mitch, but go on his website. He's got like it was 23 pages I printed off before I came on here of dirt on this Ketanji Brown. Yep. Okay. Let's not give them a win. We know what they're going to do with this woman. They're going to tote her around as we're great and this and that. And there's a racial element to it as well that they want to try to jazz their people up for November, guys. No, we need big ass wins in November, and we do not need to give Joe Biden anything to campaign on. So this is a tough fight. Get involved in the battle. Joinafa.org. Sign your petitions. Head on over to our YouTube page. Follow us over there. Get on our email list and get signed up.
A couple of people are still seem to be thinking that contacting their Democrat senators is still not such a worthwhile endeavor. I was a very quick story. It was a beautiful thing that happened when this happened. But in Minnesota, where I live, there was a gun control bill that was introduced. and it was highly likely to pass. We had 1 vote Republican majority. Everything else was dominated by Democrats.
Right.
And the members of Minnesota Gun Rights and the American Firearms Association poured so many emails into that state capitol building that the big cojones Democrat who lives in like an 80-20 district comes out and he does this rage post on Facebook, just enraged. And he said, I know for a fact that 80 out of every 100 people who live in my district believe that common sense gun control is the right path to take. Why am I getting 30-1 pro-gun emails from people in my district? He heard from 30 gun owners, 30 pro-gun people for every lefty when he lives in an 80-20 Democrat district. He started screaming. He said, as long as the gun control organizations refuse to fight as hard as the pro-gun organizations do, we're never going to get this life-saving common sense gun control legislation on the books. He raged. We killed all the bills. That's how this works. When you sit there and say, when Chuck says, well, Warnock and Ossoff, they don't give a rip, but they're not going to listen to a single pro-gun email. That's just not true. It's just not true. Enough communication from gun owners on these issues matters to every single one of those people listening, because when Democrats, weak Democrats, Republicans, when everybody's getting pummeled nonstop with phone calls and emails, then the conversations happen. They're all going, oh my God.
Yeah, and don't confuse the motivations. We don't give a hoot and damn why they do the right thing. We're not saying we're going to make Warnock and Ossoff suddenly pro-gun. We're not. The sky's not going to part. The sun's not going to descend. A peach is not going to slap them in the side of the face. You know, whatever it is, they're not going to suddenly decide to vote pro-gun. We don't care. We don't care. This is aggressive tactics in their states, in their districts, in their face, telling them and telling Chuck Schumer, your most vulnerable members are going to pay the price for your stupidity if you go too far with these nominees. So stop confusing the motivations. We don't care why they vote the right way. We're under no illusions. These are radical communists, but even they want to maintain power. And if they might lose it over a nominee like this, they might pull it, as they did with Chipman just a couple of months ago.
And we know that the left, you know, they talk about this enthusiasm gap. We've seen it in state capitals. We've seen it in Georgia. We've seen it in Alabama and everywhere else. These red shirt radicals years ago, they were showing up in hundreds, right? I mean, they were paid for by Bloomberg and Soros. These people, they're just not active right now. And I guess it can go this way, right? There's fits and spurts to politics, but and we saw it in Georgia the other day with this guy, Josh McLaren or whatever. He said there is no other issue that gets more emails into his inbox, and he's a radical left-wing Democrat, than constitutional carry. Right. And you know, without lecturing, guys, it's just like the left is depressed. They are down. They are not winning. We are kicking their ass everywhere. Let's fire up the engines here and just blow it out of the water up there in DC, or at least make this a fight. Make them talk about it. Give no quarter, no mercy, and let's just kick butt and make your voice heard out there, guys. So, yeah, I mean, guys, we're coming up about 30 minutes in the show. Aaron, you want to wrap, or anybody else? Anybody got any more points on this nominee here?
I'll let one of you guys wrap. What I will say, we're getting inundated with questions about Georgia. If everybody's asking, we're going to have a Georgia Gun Owners live show in about 10 minutes. So get over to the GGO Facebook page for some updates on that. So if anybody watching who's asking us about Georgia, Terry Archer, I've seen all of your questions, and we'll answer them over on the GGO live feed here in just a couple of moments later on today. Matt Clarahan asking about the impact of last week's budget bill. GOA is saying it would negate SEPA. Matt, they're idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about. And the whole idea of SEPA is to preclude this from happening in the states that pass it. Have no fear about that. That's what happens when you have Sunday school teachers trying to do combat in state capitals. Don't worry about that. More information on that coming ahead as well. So, guys, I'm done. If you guys want to wrap this, that's all I had to get mentioned before
just go ahead and wrap it up.
Well, I would just say that the members of AFA and those who support this organization have proven time and again that we are capable of stirring up such a push that it forces, like we said at the very beginning here, like Patrick, you said nobody else is even talking about this stuff. Well, AFA and these people watching right now, Mark and David and Martin, have proven time and again that we can push an issue hard enough that it forces all of the other organizations, different entities, politicians, all of a sudden go, oh gosh, there's a fight underway here. We better get on board. And next thing you know, you have all the national groups, everybody's pushing in the same direction because AFA has led the way. So again, I would just say send your pre-written email, become a member of the American Firearms Association, because you guys are literally the ones who are pushing these issues and making them into massive national issues for all the right reasons. So send your pre-written email, guys. We'll just wrap it with that, guys. We love you. Thank you for all of your help, for your support. We're going to have more updates on all of these fights and these nominations and things going forward. But for now, take action, and we'll be back with another update soon.